Guys, I'm having fun today. What about you? Are you having fun today? The first America's Cake and Sugar Craft Fair? We've had such a lineup. Ron Ben Israel, sweet genius. Mitch Turner, the cake maker to the stars. Roland Mesnier, our White House chef. And do you know who's coming on next? Oh my goodness. Oh, so he doesn't need a welcome because you already know he's the cake boss, right? All right, guys. Let's do something that's never been done yet in this convention center. Let's blow the roof off. Let's give the cake boss the biggest welcome that he's ever had, and it's gonna be from Orlando, right? Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, let's do it. Let's give a big welcome to the cake boss, Buddy Valastro!
Hello! Hi! How you guys doing? Hello, Orlando! How are we feeling today? I gotta tell you, coming out to this, it's like sometimes you have moments in your life that it's like, pinch me, is this for real? And feeling the love and seeing the families and the people through in the industry, it's just really heart touching. So I want to thank you so much. Appreciate it. Wow. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. Tell you a little bit of how I became the cake boss, right? It's funny because people think like you hit the lotto and you become the cake boss. It wasn't like that, trust me. It's been many years of hard work. So here it goes. My story started in when I was about 11 years old. I started working in my dad's bakery. And I'll never forget my first day at work. I said to my dad, what am I going to do? Make cakes and pastries and cookies? And he said, no, you're going to clean the toilet bowl. I was like, okay, you know. But I didn't mind doing it. You know, I honestly, if my dad was good enough to do it, I was good enough to do it. And I didn't understand why then he made me do it, but I understand now. He did it for two reasons. He did it because he wanted to show the employees that just because I was his son, I didn't get special treatment. And he wanted me to understand what it was like to be the guy who cleans the toilet bowl. So today that I'm the boss, I have a lot of admiration and respect for the guy who cleans the toilet bowl. Yeah, it's true. It really is. So that's where my baking started. But I didn't want to clean the toilet bowl forever, so I learned quick. No, you know what? It was just one of those things. When I picked up a piece of dough or a rolling pin or a pastry bag, it felt like it was part of me, it was connected. It was just like easy, you know? You know, it was like a natural at it. And I decided to become a baker when I was about 15 years old. Because my dad, my dad wanted me to learn work ethic. He wanted me to come to work at the bakery, but he never said to me, you have to be a baker. He says, I want to teach you how to be a man, and you have to learn how to work. So, when I was about 15 years old, I really got into the cake decorating. And when I make a cake, I go into what I call the zone. And I forget about all my problems. And I just put all my energy, my focus on what I'm creating. And then you step back and you look at what you created, and you get a sense of like, wow. Like, you know, you feel it in your heart. And I know that there's a lot of bakers in the audience, especially at this Sugar Fair show. It's probably why a lot of you guys wanted to become bakers, am I right? You know that feeling, right? So that was it. I was 15, I said, Dad, I want this. I want to get that feeling for the rest of my life. And it's funny because no matter what, after all these years and all the cakes that I've made, you would think that I get sick of it, but I don't. I finished the cake last week, and I stepped back and I was like, man, like I got that feeling. And I attribute my success to having my dream job. And this goes for a lot of you little guys out there. Whatever you decide you want to do in life, you gotta love it. If you go to work and you don't like what you're doing, you're never gonna excel. But if you go to work and you're excited to be there and you want to do great things, then sky's the limit. So I attribute a lot of my success to having my dream job. So now I decided I'm going to be a baker. My dad had a nice bakery. He probably had 25 or 30 employees. And I went full force. I was there any weekend, all summer long, any day off of school. Christmas holidays, I would actually cut school a little bit to go work, because by that time I was getting better. And unfortunately, and I'll never forget, I was about 16 years old, and me and my dad were looking through a wedding magazine, and he showed me a cake, and he said to me, son, can you imagine one day if our cakes are in magazines? And I turned around to him and I said, Dad, one day me and you are going to make this bakery a household name. So it's crazy. You know, that was the goal. That was the idea. So when I was 17, my dad died. And it was actually 3 weeks after my 17th birthday. And I'll never forget it. Because when we found out that my dad had stage 3 cancer, he said, I said, I'll quit school. And he says, look, just for a little bit until I get better. And then you go back and you finish school. I didn't think I was going to go to college or culinary school. I was working, like I enjoyed it. So when he died, I just never went back to school. And now I'm 17, I lost my dad, my best friend, my mentor, my idol, and I have 30 people who are depending on me to make this work. Yeah. I was a kid, you know, it was tough. It was really tough. And there was a couple lessons that I learned then. First, respect is something that you have to earn. So the baker who had been baking for 30 years wasn't just going to listen to me because I was my father's son and I was the boss. Even if he did, he would mumble under his breath and not want to listen to a kid. I had to show him that I was worthy of being the boss by what I could do, by being the first one to work every day, the last one to leave, never giving up, having determination. And I gotta tell you, the first 6 months were really hard. And then I hit like this critical moment. And like a switch went off inside me. It was the first time that I knew that I had this switch. And the switch basically goes on and it said, no matter what, I am not going to fail. I don't care what has to be done. I don't care if I have to live at this bakery. I'm going to make this successful. I had my mom, my sisters, my brother-in-laws, my employees, their families all work, you know, counting on me to grow up and be a man, and I wasn't going to let them down. So I grew up quick. I really did. And, you know, about 3 years into it, things started to get better at the bakery, you know? So I said, well, how can I put my spin on it? Well, you know, my dad accomplished a lot. I mean, he bought Carlo's Bakery in 1963. He had 2 employees and himself. He grew it to where he had 30 employees and, you know, a much bigger bakery. How do I take it to the next level? What's my legacy here? And it was a cake decorating. And it was in cake decorating because I said, you know what? I have all these old world recipes. My cake really tastes good. So what if I can make them look spectacular, like the ones in the magazines? I said, I can figure it out. I'm smart. And I had more what I call baking skills than artistic skills. So fondant, I was great with a rolling pin, so rolling out fondant was no problem. you know? Piping, I could pipe on anything. This, you know, I was so used to piping cream puffs and cookies and this and that. So I got some of that fondant and I said, I'm going to teach myself how to make these cakes. And I started to, and I did trial and error. And I would do a cake and it would come out bad and I'd rip it down and do it again. Rip it down and do it again. I'm a little obsessive compulsive, just, you know, but I use that to my advantage. Trust me, it's going to come around. So I had a beautiful cake in a window, because then I started to get good over years. And a girl walked by and she said, I work for Modern Bride magazine. She said, your cake is beautiful. I'd love to feature it. And I was like, hello, like dream come true, you know? This was like in 1999, right? So I started, I went there, and the thing is I learned a long time ago that I'm a businessman. And the first time it ever recollected that I guess you're born with it was in the first grade. Because I was in the first grade and my teacher said to me, you know, buddy, you're not doing good in school. And I said to her, Mrs. Pico, do you like cake? Can I bring you some cookies? True story. Got the opportunity to go in front of the editors of the magazines. I went guns blazing, baby. I had cookies, lobster tails, cannolis, the whole thing. And it worked. Because I was in that same magazine for 4 years straight, every single issue. Huh? Pretty good. And I got to tell you, you know, I have a lot of people who I've seen around the show who have been great inspirations for me. Like Miss Betty Van Nordstrom. I don't know if you guys know who she is. But she was the only person who I ever took any classes from, ever. The only person who ever taught me anything about cake decorating. And it was she's amazing. So, and Ron Ben Israel, I mean, who does that? Amazing, amazing. It's funny how it's such a tight-knit community here in the baking world, you know? Well, let's get back to the story. So back to the story, from being in all the magazines, I think I was in almost 150 or 200 publications over 10 years. For the Bride, Today's Bride, Your Sister's Bride, This Bride, you name it, I was in it, all right? Because you're getting one, you're getting all of them. And I gotta say, we were lucky because we were New York based. You know, you might not get Ron to admit that, but because we were in New York, that's where all the magazines were. So they wanted local New York bakers who they could count on. So a lot of people would say, well, I live in Kentucky, how come I didn't? Well, by the time you get the cake to New York, and they're the worst. The magazine's like, I need a cake in a day. But I was the lunatic that says, no problem, I'll make it for you. And I would stay up all night, and I would, because I knew that was what it was going to take for them to always, you know, use me. Really was one of the first shows to ever showcase what we do as cake decorators and sugar artists. So, you know, it was really revolutionary. And I got asked to be on that show because, again, when they look for people to compete, where do they look? Who's in the magazines? Oh, Buddy's in the magazines. This one's in the magazines. So usually the people who were in the magazines got to go on the television. So when I was at my first challenge, I did 6 challenges. I should have won 3. All right? Now I'm big enough to admit when I should lose or when I should win. But it was interesting because my 3rd challenge was a wedding cake challenge. And I kept telling the producers of the show, look, I'm not a cake sculptor. I don't, you know, at the time, honestly, I didn't know what modeling chocolate was. And I'm not embarrassed to say it. I owned the bakery. We made a lot of wedding cakes. That's what I did good. I lost. But I really won that day. And you're going to understand why in a minute. So I'm in the kitchen and I'm cleaning up and I'm all aggravated. And the camera guy who filmed me came over and he says to me, you know, buddy, he said, you were great today. I said, Tony, I said, how the hell did I lose? He said, my cake went. It was not your cake, you. I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, you jump off camera. He says, you need a television show. And I was like, maybe I do need a television show. Maybe this guy's not crazy. So of course I went to the first person who I wanted to get the blessing from was my wife. And I was honestly a little afraid. I figured she's gonna say, yeah, the real boss. That she was gonna say to me, another one of your crazy ideas and stuff like that. So I went home and I said, you know, Lee, so the guy Tony told me I was great, and he said I should have my own TV show, and I kind of like rolled over, you know? And she said, you will. I said, what? And she said, if you really believe it, and you really want it, you will. I was like, how do you just say that? And she said, honestly, I never met a more determined person in my whole life. She said, I almost hate you for it. She said, but you don't know how to fail. Anything that you set your mind to, you do. The Food Network, I said, look, I got your next hit TV show. Me, my bakery, my crazy family, I'm a little nuts, and I do big cakes. And they said to me, we just signed a cake show, it's gonna air soon. They said, but keep doing challenge, buddy, we love you on it. So I was like, oh, man. And that other show aired. I called them back and I said, no, my show's different. It's about a real like working bakery, family, like there's a lot more to it. And they said, buddy, look, our show's doing great. There's not room for 2 cake decorating shows in the world. True story. And they said, we love you, bud, keep doing challenge. So I did. Finally, TLC was looking for a cake show. And they asked bakers to send in tapes so that they can see who they want to pick. Now, coincidentally, the person who won the challenge that I lost sent in a tape to get the show for herself. When they saw the tape, they said, who's that guy? True story now, right? Isn't it funny how I lost but I won? Because they called me and they said, we're thinking of doing a cake show. So, well, I have a great idea. So just follow me in my bakery. They said, take a little camcorder, run it through the bakery, and send the tape to LA. So I did. The next day they called me, they want you. They're like, we want you. Who's your agent? And I'm like, me. Because again, running a small business, you become the baker. You become the delivery man. You become the person who's doing the consultations. The banker. You become the person for PR. I was all those things for my bakery. And that was in 2008 of December that we signed the contract. Cake Boss aired in 2009. And since then, actually the first season, we were the #1 food show on cable television. Not too bad, huh? Since then, we've done over 250 episodes of Cake Boss. We've done over 80 Kitchen Boss. We've done over 100 Next Great Baker. We've done 13 Bakery Rescue. The show is aired in 220 countries all over the world. It's dubbed in 45 languages and has been seen by 1.5 billion people. And I got to travel, the last couple of years. I've been to every continent, and seeing fans from all over the world, and knowing that my show does different things for different people in the world, it touches my heart. Because when I set out to do the show, I set out to grow my business. I wanted to make my bakery a household name. That was the truth. But I didn't know that it was going to bring families together for a half an hour each week to watch the show. I didn't know that it was going to inspire people to want to go to culinary school and become bakers. I didn't know that it was going to help people through tough times who might have been sick in a hospital and needed a leg. I didn't know it was going to help the baking industry that's been so good to me for all these years. I had a little girl in Brazil telling me, you know why I love your show? I said, why? She said, because no matter how big the challenge is, you never give up. And it inspires me that I can do anything in this world. And when you hear things like that, it's not about a reality television show. It really is. You know, you get lumped together with trash TV, and it's not who I am. That's not what I do. It's about my life as a baker, my passion for what I do. And my goal now is to make content that people could enjoy as families, that's inspirational, and get some techniques. I mean, sometimes I come up with some good techniques, you know. Not always, sometimes. And sometimes I get inspired by just walking around the show like this, seeing everybody else's work. And I think that we are a community of sharing. You know, a long time ago, somebody would copy one of my cakes. My sister says, look, they have this cake on a website, it's our cake, and they copied it. I said, listen, I'm honored. You know, people copy the Mona Lisa, right? So you have to look at it and almost being flattered. Not that not everybody's not going to be able to do what I do. People are going to always be able to do it, and we want to encourage that. We want to encourage that sharing. So the bottom line is, I am proof of the American dream. What I love about Cake Boss is that it goes across all the boundaries. Because remember, it's in 220 countries, right? So you have people from all walks of life, people in all different countries, people in all different religions, people in all different nationalities. But I think that cake, family, is universal. I think that no matter where you come from, it's something that, you know, we need more things like that to unify us as a planet. You know, because I know that we have people from many different countries here, right? And it's funny because when you visit different countries and you see different techniques and taste different desserts and different things like that, it's very inspiring. Coming to the show today, we truly appreciate it. You guys are the best. Thank you. I love you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Home Cooking with Cheryl and watching me make one of my family's favorite recipes. Give it a try.